Welcome to Crime 709. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Alicia.
And on today's podcast, we are going to be going over the final details of our Dana Bradley case. As you're aware, we started off with episode 1, right into Dana Bradley, and the first of what had happened to her, how she had passed away, and all of these details. Mm-hmm. So this week we're going to go into some really bizarre, strange revelations that have happened since the actual discovery of the body, since 1986, when we had one of our suspects, yeah, David Somerton.
That's right.
Claimed that he was the murderer, and then later recanted. Mm-hmm. We're going to go into some new things that we've since discovered that have happened right after that whole false confession.
Right. So basically, this episode we're gonna tie everything together and hopefully deliver it to you in a nice little package with a bow on top, and get out everything that we know so far, like everything up to modern times that we know. We're gonna put it out there, and then you guys can make your own conclusions of what you really think happened.
That's right. We're presenting some facts mixed with some of our own opinions. So obviously, if you want more fact, there's lots on the internet to research. Mm-hmm. And there's a wonderful book out, which we've uploaded to our Facebook page, which you can review and read.
Right. It's called Hitching a Ride.
This week, of course, we also wanted to give a few shout outs. We did have our first episode air, which is super exciting. And we've had a couple people share on Facebook and social media. So just a quick shout out.
So first, we're going to give a shout out to Stephen C. and Cindy G. from St. John's.
Mm-hmm. We have Effie S. from Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm. And we also have MP Nelder from Welland, Ontario.
Very exciting. And we wanted to also say thank you to
our buddy Chris, who actually has donated all of his sound gear. So without all of his gear, we wouldn't sound this great.
And actually, we sound amazing. I just have to say that.
So thanks, Chris.
Also, we want to do a quick shout out to our sound guy, Paul. I don't know if any of you follow DJ Paul Holla. I'm going to hashtag that, and we're going to make it a thing. So thanks, Paul. I love it. Also, I just want to make a quick confession. I think we both have a confession to make about last week's episode. Last week was our very first episode, and the very first time I've ever had a professional microphone up to my face, and I had the microphone turned backwards, so it sounds like I'm in the other room. It sounds awful. This week we fixed it. I made double sure that the microphone is actually facing my face right now, so I apologize if I sound like I was somewhere not in Newfoundland.
Right. So if people were tuning in and they thought, oh my god, these girls, they really just don't like each other, bitch, put her out in the kitchen, and the other one's sitting at the kitchen table. That's not what happened.
No. We're sitting right across from each other in our studio, I must say. It's beautiful in here. Very sunny.
It is so sunny.
Cozy.
Full of greenery.
Love it.
I mean, we couldn't be happier.
That's true.
Okay, so my confession that I would like to make, because of our last week's episode where Andrea just, admitted that, she had her microphone backwards. And it was also my first time in front of the mic. So I found myself trying to be one of those active listeners that we're taught it's very important in life. But really, I just sounded really obnoxious. And I was just cutting her off. I also said absolutely a whole whack of times. So I'm putting it out to the universe that I'm going to try not to say absolutely or speak over Andrea as much this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because I was just trying to sound like I was really into what you were saying.
I definitely didn't think you were being rude, because honestly, I love the conversation. I love the banter. I love the back and forth.
Absolutely.
I love the active listening.
See how annoying that was, though?
God, that was good, though.
It was good. So yeah, and if you want to, make a drinking game out of this, if you're listening in the evening and you want to go back to episode 1, and if you take a shot every time I say absolutely, you'll probably be drunk by 5 minutes in.
Your ass will be on the floor.
That's right.
30 seconds flat.
See? There we go.
I know, it's going to be great.
All right. So, moving right along.
Okay, so after Dana Bradley was found murdered in Maddox Cove Forest, that area.
Yeah, just off Maddox Cove Road, yeah.
After we had David Somerton false confess to the murder, after that was thrown out due to DNA evidence, we have a man named Robert in 2011 coming forward with a confession stating that he was in the backseat of the car that picked up Dana Bradley.
Right. And we also want to point out that Robert is not his actual name.
Right.
It's just a pseudonym. It's just used to protect his identity. He did have a problem with drinking when he was younger, but now he's a successful businessman, and he just didn't want his identity out there.
That's right. So Robert comes forward with the confession. Mm-hmm. He claims that he was actually, as a young boy, in the backseat of the car and watched Dana get into the car with this man.
Right. But also, if you do like a mental rewind back to our last episode, I did tell everyone just to keep in mind that fact when the Smeaton brothers, when they said that they witnessed Dana get in the car, they did say that they didn't see anyone in the back seat. Mm-hmm. So Robert is saying that him and another child were actually in the back seat of the car when it happened. So he has to kind of explain this away because it's like conflicting.
Right. The police are probably thinking, okay, well, no one was seen in the back of the car. Mm-hmm. This doesn't sound like it's going to be a true confession. But when you think about it, he's a small child. So being in the backseat of the car, I know you still can't see me in the backseat of a car. So I don't know. You can't see.
Because you're back there taking a nap.
That's actually quite true.
Right. So basically he just says that you couldn't see them because they were so small. They were small for their age and they weren't using car seats. Mm-hmm. So that was his reason why you couldn't see them.
I don't think anyone used car seats back then.
Probably not.
People still smoked in cars.
Definitely.
People still smoked on airplanes.
Oh my God.
We're not talking about smoking. We're talking about Dana Bradley.
We are.
So back to Dana Bradley, back to Robert. Mm-hmm. He claims that he and his younger sibling were in the car when the family friend who was driving the vehicle, who is this man who is allegedly the murderer, he said that this day the family friend picked them up, took them out to McDonald's. The driver stopped and picked up Dana Bradley on Topsail Road. So they went to McDonald's, opened the car door. Ice cream. I want ice cream.
Yeah.
So the driver stopped and picked up Dana Bradley on Topsail Road. There's a lot of claims by this Robert guy. There's a ton of claims. He claims that this driver who was in the car was an abusive man, was apparently sexually abusing Robert and, of course, his younger brother, and that this man was known to the family for years and was treated to the family as family, right, coming and going from Robert's childhood home as he wished, almost like you'd think of an aunt or an uncle or a good neighbor. So coming in, always welcome. Robert claims that after they picked up Dana, the driver kept driving past her home near the downtown area. I'm not sure where Dana lived, and I don't know if it's ever been said where Dana lived.
Yeah, actually, I think it did say that she was on Patrick Street. So,
oh, yes.
Because, as you'll hear from Robert's account, they drove past her house, and Dana was like, hey, that's my house.
Yes.
And he just kept on driving.
He kept driving up. Mm-hmm. That's right, because Patrick Street is right across from Shea Heights. Gotcha.
So they went all the way up to Shea Heights.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, kept driving past her home near the downtown area and decided to continue driving into the wooded area, which is where all of this horrible happened.
Right. So, basically, what Robert is saying is, after they passed her house, he says that she tried to jump out of the car a few times, actually, like on the way up over the hill. She did try to escape, but he kept grabbing her. And then he'd speed up. So she was starting to panic. He did pull off. Robert says, he pulled off into this, like, kind of a pit, like a side road. And he just said, like, oh, he just wanted a kiss. That's what he says. But either way, Dana was still panicking. Everyone was panicking at this point. And she kind of scratched him or pinched him or something.
Oh.
And she managed to open the door and get out. And she ran. Like, she took off. She was putting in a good fight. So, after that, of course, like, the accused, he got out of the car, chased her down, got her, and then that's when the assault happened.
Mm-hmm. Robert said that he got out of the car to witness all of this as well. Mm-hmm. I remember reading something where he had claimed that he witnessed the sexual assault, and he witnessed what is allegedly the murder weapon which he claims was a tire iron from the back of the trunk, which obviously would have caused the head trauma. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Rather than our last week's
slip up where I was convinced for some reason that he used a knife to cause blunt force trauma to the head.
I mean, it's certainly not blunt. If you use the heel of the knife, I think it's still, you never know. You never know.
Right. And, with Robert's story, who knows? It very well may have been a knife. We don't know. It's just murder weapon.
It's a murder weapon.
Right.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Like a lamb.
And you know what? People might also be thinking right now, too, because we did say that there were 2 children in the back of the car. Mm-hmm. Robert being one of them. Mm-hmm. The other was the younger. So I just want to put out there that Robert said that he told the younger child to stay in the car. Oh. So the younger child stayed in the back seat, so he didn't witness any of this.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah. And I also read that where the assault and the murder took place is not actually where they found her body. So, right, he had to struggle to get her body back up and into the car. Mm-hmm. And then they found that area then and dropped off her body.
Right. So what happened was he murdered her in one spot, sexually assaulted, murdered in one spot, dragged her body back up to the car, which I believe Robert said that he had helped do.
Yes.
And actually later on helped clean blood from the back of the car.
Right. And the very next day, it's so crazy. Like, the very next day, Robert and the man went back to the area because the man had lost his jacket.
Oh, had left it at the crime scene.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd go back for my jacket.
Oh my God, of course.
Especially if it was a good jacket.
And if this was episode 1, Alicia, she would say, absolutely.
Take a drink. So after the attack, Robert said that he got out of the car. He watched, like we had mentioned, all of this happen. And he remembers going over to Dana's... Sorry, he never saw Dana's body, I don't believe. Did he?
He did.
Because he wanted to put the books under her arms.
He did. He said that if you are looking at the crime scene and it looks like someone cared, he's saying the reason that it looks that way is because a small child did it, and a small child, which would be himself, didn't understand the crime, didn't understand that she was murdered, and he wanted to take care of her and put her school books there so she could get up and leave again in the morning. Mm. So he's claiming that he was the child and he was the one that took care
the caring
of her.
Person.
Yeah. So just before we go any further, I'd like to mention, a couple of quotes from Robert and give a little bit of his backstory. Mm-hmm. So I have a quote here from Robert, and it's saying that he started drinking at a young age, but I managed to get to my 30s before it caught up to me. And the alcohol was helping me cope, but it turned on me. And when I took it out of the equation, I found myself. But I had no idea what was coming to the surface. So what I'm taking from that is that Robert knew all these things happened and then kind of repressed the memories, drank himself, and then when it finally caught up to him, all of these memories kept coming back. And that's why it took him so long to come forward with this, because he just didn't remember as a child and he suppressed them. Because he also claims that he was sexually assaulted by this man that he's accusing of committing Dana's murder. Mm-hmm. And he also says, and believe me, I've laid in bed and asked myself, did that really happen? I tried to think it away, that maybe it didn't, but I can't, and it's in me. So, I mean, I feel like he really, truly believes this did happen. He, repressed his memories, and when it all finally came to the surface, he brought it forward. So I think that was December of 2011. Mm-hmm. And he actually, the RCMP investigated his tip or his lead for 16 months.
Which is a long time,
it's a
because
really
it does
long
sound,
time.
All the things that he's coming forward with sound really plausible. They sound like, okay, yeah, you wouldn't see a child in the backseat of a car.
Yeah.
You know what? There was a caring touch to the way that she was laid out after she was murdered. Mm-hmm. And all of these things could very well be true. I mean, really, we don't know.
No.
I know that Robert had, through his confession, had to go through a psychological evaluation, because what he's bringing up now, almost, 34 years later, which was at the time in 2011, sorry, even 33 years Math.
Again with the math.
Remember we said we were not good at math.
Yeah. Go back and listen to episode 1. You'll realize we suck.
From 81 to 2011. Okay, that really is just 30 years.
What is so difficult about this?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Okay, so when Robert came forward with the confession, he had to see a psychologist because after 30 years, obviously things change. God, I don't know what I was eating 30 years ago. In fact, I might because I was just a baby, so...
Milk.
Probably just...
Carnation milk and water.
Probably. Biscuits.
That's right.
You know the usual.
What's that really... it's that corn syrup that they use for thickening.
Cornstarch?
I don't know, it's a certain brand of cornstarch that
Arrowroot?
Either way they add it to baby bottles to make it thicker.
Oh,
it's an old timey thing.
Oh, fuck, I don't know.
No offense if you did that with your children.
I know.
Who knows? But I don't know. I'm picturing a yellow bottle.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think I do. I feel like I know what you're talking about. I just don't know the name of it.
Anyways,
anyone does know the name of it, just...
Either way, that's probably what you were having. Especially if you lived in Newfoundland in the 80s.
I was probably eating cigarettes and beer at that age. Who knows? Okay, maybe not. You're probably eating them, actually.
You're just drinking the leftover beer from the bottom of the bottle when they would put their smokes out in it.
Do you remember this story? Because I did that.
Oh my God, no, I don't remember the story, but I feel like it was everyone's life.
I did do this. My dad had a couple of beers out on the patio. I went over. They were delicious, like hot summer beer empties. Gross. And I swallowed one back, and there was a cigarette butt, and I projectile vomited everything that was in my stomach prior, which was probably, it was disgusting. I still remember the taste. I remember the feeling. It was gross. I don't recommend anyone do it. Just keep your beer bottles away from kids, people.
Just how old were you?
Probably 5.
I mean...
Not that we don't condone underage drinking. It was a sweet treat. For me. For me, it was a sweet treat.
It was really hot. I was 5.
I thought it was delicious.
Was a Black Horse?
It could have been.
I mean, I feel like it would have to be a Black Horse. Old stock.
Yeah.
But anyways,
something like that.
If there was any beer drinking done at my house by me at the age of 5, it would have been a Black Horse.
This cracks me up. Does Black Horse want to endorse us?
Yes. Sponsor us, we could start recording this, after 5 o'clock in the evening.
That's right, with a beer.
Right, and then we can do beers.
Cold beer, of which there is a horse that is black on it. If you want to endorse us, we'll say your name one more time.
Right, we can do a fake shout out, be like, oh, and tonight I'm drinking insert your beer here.
Insert your beer. Crisp.
Anyways, let's get back on track here.
Back to the case.
Where did we leave off, Andrea?
Right. So we left off with Robert having to see a psychologist.
Yes, we did.
Or a psychoanalyst. Maybe just a psychologist. The psychologist who was assigned him, Dr. Peter Collins, came forward and said a couple of interesting things about what Robert was saying.
Right. And now, Dr. Peter Collins isn't just any ordinary psychiatrist. He's actually an expert in the field of forensic psychiatry. Right. So he's this is his specialty. Right?
Yes.
Specialty, is that the word?
Yes, definitely.
It is today.
This is what he does.
This is it.
This is his job.
Yep.
This is what pays the bills.
So I think Robert was also convinced that he might have been suffering from some post-traumatic stress disorder.
Which you would be.
Right.
I mean, in anyone in that situation, you are going to, and that's probably why he suppressed all those memories years ago, because you think about that for a small child. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you think about things that happened to you when you were a kid and you're like, was that a dream? Was it real? And then usually the Care Bears don't exist in real life, so it was definitely a dream.
Yeah.
But in this particular scenario, it's a little bit more sinister. Was that a dream?
Right.
Or was it something that he made up?
Yeah.
And as a child, dreaming about those things, that's awfully scary if that were the case. So my personal opinion, maybe this is quite true because you can't just... As a child, you can't just make this up.
No, and I also want to do another little sidebar here for myself and a personal. When I was a child, and I don't remember the actual age, but to this day, I'm convinced that this was real, that this actually happened to me. And Mom and Dad, they just tell me I'm crazy.
Oh, what is it?
So I must have had a dream when I was younger, and I feel like I was 3, and this man came to our front door banging on the door saying he was here to get me. And that he was coming back when I was 16 to take me.
Oh my
and
God.
I remember it like it was yesterday, and I remember the rain and the cold and this man being like, I'm coming back when she's 16 to take her. And I just carried it with me through my entire life. And now I talk to my parents about it. They say, Alicia, you're batshit crazy. This did not happen. Like, and how would you remember when you were 3? But I'm convinced. So, I mean...
And you know what? I don't even think that Cinderella was out then. So 16...
Maybe it was like 101 Dalmatians.
Something
I'm
like
coming
that.
back to get their fur.
Coming back to get Alicia's head of hair.
I did have very thick hair as a youngster.
You have beautiful hair.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so anyways, that's like a thing. So for me, I was convinced that happened. So I can believe that if Robert was hearing all of this in the news, I can totally believe how he can think that he was actually there, because I've had a similar experience, obviously not as detailed as his.
Right.
But for me personally, that felt like real life.
You know what? And to be honest with you, now that I'm reflecting back on as a child, I remember levitating.
Really?
I mean, did
Light
it
as a
happen?
feather, stiff as a board?
Oh my God, we played that game
All
in
the time.
grade 6 at a sleepover. It fucking happened. I levitated. I was the one that had to levitate. I don't know why. I think I was like the runt of the litter, and they were just like, yeah, you get on the floor.
We can toss her and make her believe it's real life.
I know. I think that's probably what they did. So we all, like, all the girls got around, and honestly, I did lift up off the ground. I've played with Ouija before too. I don't like it. Scares me a little bit.
I've never played with Ouija, and I will not.
I'm telling you, it moved on its own. Me and my sister did it.
No thanks.
It moved on its own. And I was like, nope, done. Don't want to do it no more.
All about the true crime, not about the ghosts.
I don't know how we got off on this tangent, but it's a good one.
But either way, all about the true crime,
That's
not
right.
about the ghosts.
Not about the ghosts.
That
could be another podcast.
It terrifies me.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Now that we've decided that we will never have a ghostly podcast, we'll continue with our Dana Bradley podcast.
So Dr. Peter Collins,
Right.
a psychologist, had stated that through conversations with Robert, through realizing the PTSD, Dr. Collins came out and said that he believes that Robert was experiencing what in the industry is called false memory syndrome. What is false memory syndrome?
So basically, false memory syndrome is just, you just wholeheartedly believe that this actually happened. I mean, you're convinced. Everything about you feels like it was real, just like I was just saying, or my dream, I felt like it was real life. It's real life. However, it didn't actually ever happen to you. And also, I would just like, there's some big controversy about this, because Robert does feel like it actually truly happened, that false memory syndrome is actually not a real thing.
It's not
apparently.
admissible in court.
Right.
So if you're having false memories, I mean, technically, anything that you say or anything that you believe to have happened, it can't be counted. We can't count that because it's not the courts agree that it's not a real thing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like not a recognized diagnosis.
Right.
Right?
And I have it straight from Wikipedia because you know how I love Wikipedia.
Love it.
It's a condition whereby a person's identity and relationships center on a memory of traumatic experience that is objectively false. But the person strongly believes that it occurred. And that's like taken exactly right from Wikipedia. I hope I'm not going to get sued for that. But
Well, you shouted out Wikipedia.
shout out to Wikipedia. So the thing is that all of this could be false.
Right.
Which really throws everything that he's saying out the window. It does sound plausible, but at the same time, there's so much that doesn't sound plausible.
Yeah. So I guess basically after he met with Dr. Collins, the RCMP informed Robert that none of the avenues related to his tip provided any new evidence to support criminal charges, and his complaint about being sexually abused by the man in the early 1980s had concluded without any corroborating evidence to support new charges. So they threw it out.
That must be really devastating for someone who believes that this actually did happen.
Oh my God, I would be crushed.
You believe something like this traumatic experience happened to you, and it's thrown out the window. Someone basically is calling you a liar. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that anyone's a liar. I'm saying that that's what it would feel like to me if that was happening. So, I mean, Robert went so far as even to claim that he knew exactly what the car was, where the car was being, kept right now. And a lot of people who believe in what Robert had said and believe his story came forward, to the police and was like, you have to do something about this. If anything, just search it up. See if he's saying anything right about where the vehicle is. So Robert did. Robert went forward and said, this is where the vehicles are being stored. And apparently the vehicle that was used in the hitchhiking abduction were being kept on Robert's father's old piece of property.
Yeah, they use it as like backfill.
Yeah, they actually did use the vehicles as backfill. And so the police then had to take up an excavation team, basically hauled the vehicle out.
But I just want to stop you there for a second. I don't feel like it was, like, I think the police didn't want to do it. And it was actually the Justice for Dana Bradley Facebook group that they actually crowdsourced. They have like over 9,000 members.
Wow.
And they crowdsourced, I think, and managed to raise $8,000 to do this dig. And then some retired RCMP or RNC, cops did oversee it, but it was mostly like a guy with an excavator doing it for free and all this other stuff. But I think before they could even go ahead to do that, the police had to check with Robert's father and actually confirm, because so much of Robert's story didn't match up.
Right.
They actually want to make sure that the car, what he was saying about the cars, was actually true.
This is amazing. I feel like this guy's giving you everything.
Yeah. It's like, here it is on a silver platter.
And the police are like,
No. So Robert's father came forward and he did say that at the time he had a 2-door Dodge Dart, the early 70s model. And he actually also had a Plymouth Valiant.
So he owned both vehicles.
He owned both vehicles. The Plymouth was used as parts, but the Dodge Dart was like a drivable car. And that the man, the accused, did take this car regularly. And he also remembers the time, around that time when Dana did go missing and people were searching for that car, that the police did come and talk to him about the car. But they never actually looked inside the vehicles at all. So he remembers the police coming, talking to him about it, and never actually searching the cars.
Because I guess at that time the father would be like, no, I definitely didn't take that out for any of those purposes.
Right.
And
I guess if he didn't have anything else to go on.
Right. And like we said prior to this as well, like DNA evidence was pretty sparse back then, or pretty sparse in knowledge. So if there was even, if they had looked in the trunk and saw rust colored, I mean, they might have just thought it was rust because, like you said, it's sounds like he has like a bit of an auto yard there with some used parts. Maybe it was a rusted part or whatever. I don't know.
Mechanically knowledgeable?
I'm not saying it.
I mean, we don't know.
So there's some ideas there.
Right.
But we don't know. So, okay, so back to, I'm so sorry. I really didn't realize that it wasn't the police. I thought it was police, but it's not. The police totally dismissed the whole thing. And we're like, nope, not going to do it. So the Justice for Dana Bradley came forward and brought out the money to get this
on the go.
On the go. They found the vehicles, which were being used as landfill, but apparently no evidence could have ever been found from it because there was a lot of runoff from sewage.
Yeah.
Sewage water, mud, gunk. It was buried for 30 years, so there was nothing to gather from there. So after that, I mean, it was all a little bit of a shock because at this time, too, I know Robert had mentioned to his father that this family friend, the man who had picked up Dana, had said that he was sexually abused by this man, this family friend, basically his adolescent life. And the father came out saying he was really shocked, really upset, and didn't realize that this was taking place right under his nose.
Yeah, so the guy that Robert accused, as well as like this whole Dana Bradley sexual assault and everything that happened, he actually has been charged with sexual molestation, basically, like sexual crimes against children. So he is actually like it's confirmed that he has done this in his past. He now the reports about Robert's abuse, they're still saying that's unfounded. I mean, they don't have anything to support his claims of sexual abuse. But it seems funny to me that he is a convicted, like, sex offender towards children. Robert is coming forward saying that he was sexually assaulted. The police are saying, nope, still nothing. So, I mean, I find it really hard to see the truth one way or another.
I know, and it gets me every time someone says sexual abuse is unfounded. What? Okay, emotional abuse, yes, can be sometimes unfounded because in certain situations, like we talked about in this case, you repress a lot of things that happen to you. If you were sexually abused as a child, that's not something you want to remember every day. That's something you try to shut out every day, especially if no one around you believed you, or especially if no one around you knew that it was going on. And especially if it was someone who was close to your family. And I think that saying that, they're unfounded doesn't really give him, this Robert character, justice for being a victim as well. I think that they should, nod their heads. Yes, this happened to you. You believe this happened to you. I will give you that. Going so far as whether or not he was the man who murdered Dana Bradley, we don't know. We can't say that for sure. We don't have any evidence for that.
Right.
But to claim there's no, profound evidence for sexual assault to Robert when he was a child, I think it's rude. And if anyone agrees with me, thank you.
I mean, I totally agree.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know how long ago really the abuse took place. How would you even determine whether it happened or did not happen?
What kind of evidence do you need?
But basically, you have this guy coming forward saying that, hey, this guy used to pick me up. We used to have sleepovers. He took me for ice cream. He was in my house all the time. My parents trusted him with us. And now he's a convicted sex offender. A child sex offender.
I don't know what more you need.
That's the worst kind. Give Robert a little bit of validation here. Like, back him up a little bit. Because, I'm backing him up. Just to be able to come forward and say all this, it's a big deal.
That's right. Absolutely.
So, Robert, we're with you.
Absolutely.
Andrea said it first.
I love it. So, in conclusion to this,
right.
I know that going back down through everything, it's still a mystery. It's all a mystery. We've got lots of ideas of who may have done it. Not really, though, because we don't have names. Like we said before, this still is an open case, so they're not giving the public a lot. I know that if you fact check and read a lot of the articles that are out there, check out Justice for Dana Bradley.
Right.
Check out the book.
Yeah. Hitching a Ride.
Yeah. And see for yourself what it is that you want to come up with. I mean, the case isn't solved. You could be the one to solve the case.
Right. And I think, I know we're coming at this not super, super serious, but like we said last time, we're not serious people. And I think we just kind of want to bring more attention to it because you never know what can happen. We're bringing this to, like Andrea and I said last week, where were we in 81? Not here. We did not exist. So we would like to bring this case to the attention of maybe even like a newer generation.
Absolutely. Keep it alive.
Yeah, keep it alive. Spread the word as much as you can. Share it with as many people as you can because you never know. I know people always say somebody knows something, but really someone does. Someone could just be keeping this with them, right? And
shame, guilt, repressed memory.
Anything. And like anything helps. And
just think about the family. If you are out there, and you're listening to this, think about the family. Time has passed. So much time has passed that for the family, I'm sure the answer to this question is still pressing in their minds. They still want to know who did this.
Absolutely.
I would want to know.
I said it.
You said it again.
I said it.
3 drinks.
God. Okay, but also, before we go anywhere, did we mention what resulted from the dig? Did we mention what happened when they did excavate the cars?
Yeah, they didn't find anything.
They found nothing.
They found nothing because the runoff and...
Right. So it was used as like a drainage system and they wouldn't have been able to find anything anyways. Right. And then I'm not sure about this new DNA evidence that came forward.
Right. So obviously DNA has become way more, up and with the times these days, right. Forensics. But we don't know... because they haven't released to the public what kind of DNA that is. We can assume it might be DNA from under her fingernails. We can assume it could be DNA from We know that she was a sexually assaulted victim. So was it from a rape test kit that they performed after the autopsy? You know, what other kinds of things that they found on her at the scene of the crime? That DNA is not announced. Probably for good reason. You know, they're still trying to find out who did this.
Right. And I know that during our first episode, we did say that very little usable DNA was actually recovered at the scene. So I guess what they did find, they were able to preserve for this long. So David Somerton and this man that Robert is accusing have actually both been fully cleared of the crime. So, I mean, you know, whether Robert's account is accurate or inaccurate, the man that he is accusing has been cleared. And also David Somerton, the man who confessed to the murder back in 86, he has been cleared. So they are actually out, nothing else to do with the case. So, I mean, that's like two, I feel like, really good leads that have actually, they're done. Closed up.
Scary. I really hope that someday soon we find out who did this to her. This is a word to the wise for the people who are, you know, traveling out and about these days. You know, it is 2018 now. People are still the same. People don't change. There are still bad people out there. There are still good people out there. There are still innocent people out there.
And there are still awesome people out there like us.
And there are still some naive people out there.
Right.
When you get into a car with someone, always make sure you have your cell phone these days. I know Dana obviously didn't have that access back then.
Luxury.
But make sure you have a cell phone. Make sure someone knows where you're going. Make sure someone knows where you are. Make sure, like, I don't know, take a picture of yourself that day so people know what you're wearing if you go missing. I don't know. I don't know what else to say to people other than
keep your
just
wits about ya.
Yeah, keep your wits about ya. Don't get in cars with strangers.
I know. And I mean, I feel like this is just this is the wrap up.
Yep.
For Dana Bradley. Unfortunately, unsolved, still an open case. Look into it. Investigate. Be armchair detectives.
Yes.
Amateur sleuths. Like Andrea and I like to think of ourselves as amateur sleuths.
Or I have a pipe in my mouth and a Sherlock Holmes hat on my head.
Right. That's how I do all of my research for this podcast.
There is no other way.
I mean,
I have a monocle as well.
Right. My fake mustache is a little ticklish. I sometimes had to peel it off halfway through.
Yes, and it does get caught in the fibers of the microphone sometimes.
It does. It's very difficult.
It's very long.
That's why you can hear us clicking sometimes. Our fake pipes are hitting the edge of the microphone. But anyways, I just that's Dana. That's Dana. And keep your ears, eyes, everything open. Mm-hmm. But I would like to ask you a question, Andrea.
Oh my gosh. Ask away.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm nervous.
How do you keep yourself from getting murdered these days?
Oh God, you know what? Good question.
Yeah.
How do I I manage it day by day. Sometimes it's, saying a prayer before bedtime. We're going to cut this right. We're cutting this. How do I keep from getting murdered?
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I'm a good person. I don't murder other people. So
that's right.
If you're good, goodness will come to you. Is that a thing? Is that a fact? No, that's not a fact.
I mean, it's not a fact, but I think it's a good way to live.
I mean, how do you keep from having murders?
I'm a very, very nervous person.
Me too.
If someone was going to break into my house and try to murder me, they would get fucked up. There's knives under my pillow. I booby trap my doors.
It's like that Home Alone, where he walks in.
Yeah.
Or it's just yeah.
I mean, sometimes I go to bed full on clothes, running shoes. I'm getting out of there if anyone comes in. Right out through the bedroom window. Gone.
Done. Out. Peace out.
Peace out. But I do want to point out some tips because there's a little bit of some shady stuff going on in St. John's and in surrounding areas lately. Mm-hmm. Keep your cell phone charged. Keep your cell phone close.
Yes.
I mean, and even if it's an old cell phone.
Yeah, use it.
They still call. They still dial out 911.
Do they?
Yes. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do, yeah.
No way.
You can give it a whirl anyways.
We'll try it.
Keep flashlights around. Lock your doors. Lock your windows.
100% lock your doors. Lock your windows. Mm-hmm. You can even set up fake lights around the house.
Yeah. Anything. Do it. Keep yourself safe. We don't want you to have to be on our show.
Oh, God.
Nope. Keep yourself safe. We don't want to be talking about you next week.
No, we do not.
No. But do you have anything else you want to add in, Andrea?
I have nothing to add in, but it's been a pleasure. Episode 2, the roundup, the final touches put on Dana Bradley.
That's right.
But because it's not technically a roundup, and if we do get any more leads for this, we're going to be the first people to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So stay tuned, you guys. Listen to us next Thursday. Yeah. When our next podcast is going to air. We're very excited about that one as well. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find our podcasts on iTunes, and you want to rate us.
Yes,
and
please
subscribe.
Give us 5 stars, 5 thumbs up, however that goes.
Whatever it is. Give us all the good stuff.
Yep.
On Twitter, on
all
iTunes. And you can also find us on Google Play now. And then Podbean is where we upload originally. Just check us out all over the place.
Alicia, I have one question for you.
Of course.
Like, how excited were you to find us on Google Play?
Oh my God. I listen to so many true crime podcasts. And when it came up today, and it was like recently updated, and there we were.
Oh my God.
I nearly shit.
Yep. We're pretty excited. Obviously, you can tell.
I just couldn't believe it.
Keep listening to us so it just boosts our confidence even more.
Yeah, keep listening. Share it with your friends. Yes. Everything you can do. The more the merrier, and the more people that know about these crimes, whether they're solved or unsolved, the better. Justice for the victims is what we want, and hopefully we can get to the truth and do like a little bit of good.
That's right. This is our little bit of good for the day.
It's our little bit of good.
I love it. Well, Alicia,
it's been a slice.
It's been a slice.
See you next week.